Wake up, Lobos!
Wake up, Lobos! I'm Damon and I'm here with
Sydney,
Lila,
Haley,
Imani.
Mr. Baker.
Welcome to episode 4. In this episode, we're going to talk about funny stories from the classroom. We collected stories from Learn Striver teachers and students.
Our first story is from Mr. Hanker. Mr. Hanker's funny story says, there was one day I went to school during my first year of teaching, not Learn 9, and I accidentally showed up in sweatpants. Teachers aren't allowed to wear sweatpants, so I was a little embarrassed when I walked in. But then another teacher told me it was no big deal, so I felt better.
I've got a good one here. So a few years ago, my sixth graders were playing the emoji scavenger hunt game on the Chromebooks. All right, so that's where you walk around the room and it shows you a picture of a thing and you have to use your camera and show it and try and figure out where it is. And it's usually kind of crazy. But one of the students looked at the picture on the screen and it was an envelope. And the kid yelled, "Where am I supposed to find the email thing in the classroom?" And I thought that was pretty funny that they didn't know what an actual physical envelope was.
Yeah, some kids can do that. They don't know what envelope is.
We also have a story from Miss Ponce's class. So what happened was that we were in class, right? We were taking notes. A kid from my class, he put in his notes, I am from America. Miss Ponce told him that was in a city or a state, and he said, I thought America was a state. And then we showed him the map we have in the classroom. We showed him that the whole thing, full of 50 states, was America, and he said, I thought that was the U.S.
Sometimes kids just forget their states.
Now, we also have a story from Miss Alanis. Her story said, it's also a known fact that you should never prank Mr. Alanis. If you start pranking him, you've started a pranking war, just as Miss Perez. Those two were going back and forth for 4 weeks. Furniture was wrapped, cars were stuffed, and innocent people were brought in. He is currently trying to figure out who is leaving random ducks in his classroom. I honestly hope he never finds out. I don't think this school can handle another prank war. I also remember that someone taped Miss Martinez's phone onto a door. To be honest, she did leave her phone everywhere that year. She learned her lesson though. Man, the pranks go on and on.
That was pretty funny. I cannot confirm or deny that I was part of any of those. Talk to my lawyer. But I will say that yesterday, as of recording this, I did find a very small duck in my book return bin. So it continues.
Wait, I actually in my classroom.
We found ducks.
Yeah,
There's ducks
and
in the
I found
door
one
thing.
found one on yesterday, remember? And you told me, don't grab it.
in my
Yeah.
classroom, we keep finding axolotls, and I maybe took one because they're cute. So
Julia gave me one.
Yeah.
There was this person, in the front they're doing what you did today, and a kid I put ducks around the whole school. So that was
We also at one point took a picture of Mr. Alanis as a very young child, and also one of Miss Rios, if I remember right. And we were posting these pictures of them as kids all over the school and in their office and stuff.
I remember that year because we saw a whole bunch of little baby pictures.
Right. That was pretty funny.
What year was
All right, I've got another good one here. So every year with kindergarten and first grade, I do something that helps them learn how to navigate through a website. So we go through the San Diego Kids Zoo website. One day we were scrolling through and one of the boys yelled out in the middle of class, "Mr. Baker, where's the poop bug?" The day before he was trying to find the dung beetle and he couldn't remember the name of it, so we called it the poop bug.
Oh my god.
So that from now on, I've always called the dung beetle the poop bug in honor of that kid.
He's not wrong though. It does look like a.
I mean, the picture is a beetle pushing a little piece of poop around, so
Oh yeah,
he's not wrong.
it actually looks.
Of it?
It looks like it. So it is a beetle, but it just. I don't understand why
Doesn't
it's
look
just
right.
I don't know why it's just pushing a ball of poop. Like.
All right, I
Like,
think
no.
Sydney has the story for us from Miss Hawkins.
Oh yeah.
One late morning, I noticed that it was snowing. I knew my students would be extremely excited, but just before I said something, I decided to tell them right before break instead. During this time, it was extremely hard to keep students on task because e-learning was completely new for all of us. And I think most of the students I had will describe me as strict. Well, during online learning, I used to create slides and follow routines and celebrations to keep my students motivated, engaged, and excited about learning. I was not willing to take a risk interpreting the lesson for them to look out of the window. Well, as I concluded that it was a better idea to wait, one of my students turned on the microphone and shouted, "It's snowing!" Intervened and exclaimed, "Wait, wait, we are going on break in 5 minutes. Please wait until break." I remember my students freezing midway out of their seats, looking back at me, and then we all stared and laughed.
Oh wow.
Oh man, COVID times. We could do a whole podcast just on weird things that happened during that.
I hated
Like the one
Yeah.
time that one of my students' brothers decided that the middle of my class was a good time to vacuum the floor in the room with his shirt off.
Oh,
That was a real quick hit the button, hit the button. I've got another good one here. So this actually did happen during COVID times. I was the only one at school during the pandemic times because I was doing all the tech stuff, and I had some weird things. And this was actually Lila's brother
Oh yeah.
who
Yeah.
emailed me frantic because he couldn't get his headphones to work. And everything he tried playing it in, it just wouldn't fit, and there must be something wrong with his computer. So I told him, okay, bring your computer to school, and I'll take a look. Turns out he was plugging his headphones into the power outlet on the computer instead of the headphone jack, which is why nothing worked.
Yeah. I mean, my brother could be a little bit goofy and all that stuff, you know?
Well, I'm gonna make sure I send this podcast to him too, so he heard you say that.
Oh yeah. He knows. He don't care.
I have a couple more quick stories. I've been teaching for a little while, so I've got a few saved up here. This happened pandemic times when we were all at home and we were doing virtual. I was waiting for some of my fifth graders to jump on with us, and we were talking about some technology and voice activated devices like Google Home and Siri and things like that. And I realized that having a Google Pixel in my pocket when I'm teaching about Google tools, maybe not the best idea, because every time I said the word Google, which as you can imagine in a technology class in the school is quite often, my phone would start talking to me. How can I help you? So that was always pretty funny. It interrupted class, but it was kind of funny. But a couple other things similar to that. At the time, a second grader named Sydney, who happens to be on this podcast,
Oh my gosh.
she asked a lot of questions because she was usually confused, or I was yelling at her to pay attention.
Said too.
So, but every time I said, "Hey Sydney," the Siri on my computer would turn on because my computer thought Sydney and Siri were the same thing. I also had a second grader at the same time named Alexa, So I would mess with everybody in the class. I'd say, "Hey Alexa, play Baby Shark." Then everybody go, "Mr. Breaker, stop it!" Because all of their devices at home would turn on. Hey, I was bored sitting staring at a computer, staring at your faces for 8 hours a day. I had to entertain myself somehow.
You needed to figure out how to
Just
make it fun.
kidding.
Figure out what to do in my time. You just sit there, stare at the wall, do nothing. You don't know what to do.
I used to do that during quarantine too.
Yeah, I think everybody kind
Got
of zoned out for a little
boring.
while.
Yeah, because we couldn't go out at the time.
And
I
we
was,
were
like,
just stuck
so
there.
bored.
And then
Yeah.
for lunch, we would go to Miss Avalos' like little lunch meet thing, and we would go in there, and we would talk to her, and then we would just go back to class. Like we never actually got a break, but at least we got a choice if we wanted to go talk to her or not.
That was a good.
Cool. All right, I've got another one. This is a kind of a ridiculous one. This will tell you everything you need to know about third grade boys.
Ooh, wow.
So I walked into the third grade class one day, it's a couple of years ago, and I saw all the boys looking at each other, making weird faces. So naturally, I had to go in and see what that was all about. So I said, "Hey, what's up with your face?" And they said, "Mr. Baker, can you raise your eyebrows?" So I raised my eyebrows, and then I did one, and then I did the other, and they did both at the same time. Like, how do you do that?
Magic. It's just
Do
magic.
what? It's like, well, I can do them both, or I can do one, but I can't do the other one at the same time. So I told them I was honest. I said, back when I was in high school, I was a big fan of the wrestler The Rock, and his thing was he always raised one eyebrow. So I would practice it in the mirror to be like The Rock and raise an eyebrow.
So he was once like you guys.
Did you
Practicing.
actually do it?
Huh?
What?
So the boys then spent the next few minutes of class making weird faces trying to raise an eyebrow. So I said, you know what, guys, as funny as this is to watch you make weird faces, I think we should actually learn something in class today.
they're like we're learning how to raise one eyebrow.
I mean, you
Hey,
don't know.
kids are hilarious. Sometimes not on purpose.
They're great boys.
I just can't.
They're great boys are weird. What can I say? All right. I have one more quick one, and this actually happened quite a while ago when I was teaching in another school in Zion. The National Junior Honor Society was making posters, and they decided to spice up their posters a little bit by adding some sparkly glitter. I was working in the library, and then I stepped out to go to a meeting, and when I came back, there was a full-out glitter war
Ooh.
happening in my library.
Ooh.
Needless to say, I was not a happy person. So I looked at them and I said, every single sparkle better be off my floor when I come back from my walk. And I left the room. They thought it was hilarious until I came back. And they picked up every single sparkle by hand to put in the garbage. And they were there at school for like another extra hour cleaning up their mess. So I don't know how funny of a story that was. Maybe it was funny for them at the time.
I mean, you gotta just think before you do it. Like,
Right. Yeah.
Don't do it at all.
Middle schoolers, sometimes the thinking part doesn't have to be the doing part. It happens. All right. That's all the stories I have. Girls, do you have any other stories for us today?
no.
That's it for this episode. Until next time, wake up, Lobos!
Wake up. Wake up, Lobos.
Wake.